Okay guys, first of all, Spadia is not just a YouTube channel. We have also digital products, physical products, which are going to help you about everything we talk about in these videos. You can find two links in the descriptions below. And now let's get back to the video you came here to actually watch. Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today we have pretty much a brand new topic which you haven't talked about, and it's going to govern everything about respect. And this is one of the topics which is very important to tackle, especially in workplace, but it also applies to gym and fitness, because once you actually get the right context behind how you can improve it and how it works, it's going to pay you pretty much the biggest dividends you could have ever seen, and it works especially well long term. Now, just to dive straight into it, guys, I will mention is that I know many cases, and if you think by yourself into the past about people who were promoted in the workplace and people who weren't, pretty much all of it tied into the respect they had from their peers or colleagues or bosses above them. The work you put in matters a lot, but if the people above you don't respect you, you are pretty much fucked, and you may not even be able to advance in your own career. But I basically have kind of a story I have for you, is that you can basically imagine it as an example of two guys that may be the same person. One who may work quite a lot, he is respected by others since he also works even outside of the job itself. And this man can get promoted into a different position. He can basically expand his skill set all the time. He may even be helping out other people, which when basically people above him see that, they will actually pretty much automatically, it's actually subconsciously, they will want to push him up to basically give him more responsibility on that end. Then on the other hand, if you have a person who just does what he has to, because that's what the job demands on him, he doesn't try to expand his skill set, he doesn't really try to help others that much, basically he's doing what he has to, that guy actually stays in the same spot. And I will just tell you one thing, guys, which you will have to realize, is that staying in the same spot is basically going backwards in other people's minds. You are basically moving up or down. It's no other way about it. And in terms of respect, it especially relates to the fact that either you are basically improving your own skill set and other people, especially at your workplace or in your business, can see that, or you're basically stagnating and going behind. And in the case of the second guy, that will basically mean that he's going to be in the end not be able to work for the company anymore, because they will basically make him go. It's just how it works. It's kind of devil's way, to be quite fair, but you just have to remember that just the entire reason why actually some people get promoted isn't by a random chance. It's always pretty much because of respect. And I will just say one thing, is that respect can be earned also by being able to communicate well. I think not a lot of people have superhuman abilities in that, but you can basically also know that building respect is especially useful in the long term. And I would just say one thing, that as long as you start getting pushed up in the beginning, that will basically cascade up and up and up. Now, basically, how this also relates to the fact is that if you aren't smart, intelligent, or good communicator, basically one of the ways you can do is to try to constantly outwork everyone at your workplace. Now, I will say one thing, is that working more hours than anyone else at the workplace does work, but it's not the full scope of the picture I want to outlay here for you guys. Because I'm gonna say one thing, that if a person outworks everyone at the company, it still doesn't earn you too much of, let's say, respect from people in there, because they're still working on the same goal. You may be just putting a couple of hours more than them, which in our own minds it earns respect, but it's not what we want yet. What you especially want to be doing is to outwork them in a way where you are working multiple jobs at the same time. this works because this is something that even the bosses you might have or the people that you know just aren't willing to do. One is usually the reason because they might have their own families on the other end or kids. And the second is that even they themselves usually have not done that when they were young. So it's something they have not done but you are doing. And this is a beautiful example of the, also David Goggins spoke about it, of there's a chapter in his ebook, which also is in the format of audiobook, called Taking Souls. And it basically means that you are exceeding the expectations of the people who are above you, and that he did that basically also in the Navy SEALs, and it worked wonders on that end. And when you exceed the expectations of the people around you, it works wonders. But I think in terms of respect, it's going to net you so much you might not even think that it actually works that well. And especially why I'm talking about the fact, because that you should work other jobs other than just one you have. And if 2 jobs aren't enough, work 3 or have your own business in any other endeavor you would have liked to. Is because this showcases to them that you are willing to put more work than them into basically your own life and your own endeavors on that end. This is why, for example, working 20, let's say 15 to 20 hours a day in the single company you're working at doesn't increase as much respect, because you are still working on the same topics and ideas. But if you are working other jobs as well, if you are working on your, let's say, business, that basically means that you are working on, let's say, a bigger idea and on a bigger topics than even themselves, which basically means this taking souls topic from the David Goggins book as well, is that you are willing to actually put in a lot more work than them. Now, the reason why this also increases, or like the reason why it helps so much with the respect, is that if people basically see you taking shit seriously, they will automatically move you up, because it basically signals to them that you are able to actually take care of basically maybe even entire teams. And as an example, you're able to handle the responsibility on that end. And I would just tell you one pro tip, guys, that especially in this era, there is not lots of men who are doing that, especially, let's say, in ages of about like 20 to 35. Like basically there's almost no competition on that end. So you just have to figure out how to slot into that bracket to actually be willing to work more jobs on that end. I've also prepared basically 2 tools for you guys, and I've basically also written this down for you. Is that in order to actually be able to outwork everyone in your workplace, you have to be really careful how you handle your own motivation levels, or let's say how you handle the ways in which you are able to work so much. If you want to basically do this, you have to watch out for the hormone dopamine. We've talked about this quite often, but I'm especially going to relate this to this topic because I will mention to you is that if you are now able to work multiple jobs, I basically encourage you to not talk about it too often, because for yourself it's going to feel like an accomplishment, and the more you talk about it, the more dopamine you release in your own brain. Now, the reason why I'm discussing this topic about not talking about it too often is because, unfortunately, the dopamine system, as we've talked about many times, is on the seesaw effect. Is that once it's increased, it has to then come down, and the baseline level is something that it always returns back to. What you just have to then realize is that whenever you talk about your own accomplishments, you are basically increasing these dopamine levels. So the best case would be to watch out for that and to basically only talk about your other jobs or what you do when maybe some people ask about it, but to not constantly talk about maybe like you having 2 or 3 jobs or additional company as well, because it's going to drive down your dopamine levels. And you need to have the dopamine up for when you are ready to work on the second or third work, because if you just keep talking about it, you know what I mean? Like, you aren't going to be able to then have the motivation to actually work on those jobs. So it's always better to basically reserve that system to be able to actually outwork pretty much everyone you pretty much know of in that end. This is especially a tool which is mostly geared towards motivation, because I'm gonna actually tell you one thing, guys. Working multiple jobs isn't as hard. It's actually super easy to do. You just need to figure out one thing as to how to guard your motivation levels to do that. And then the second thing is that, which we have to make a completely separate video about, is how to make sure that you're actually working on the right things and not just to fill up your time. But it's basically a topic which needs to be handled as a second thing completely, and I think it also deserves its own video on that end. Now, talking about what you do also relates to gym, because obviously, like, if you are constantly talking about yourself increasing your lifts, it feels good, but when you're actually then again going to do those lifts, you won't feel as motivated again. It's a kind of a diabolic way, but that's how it works, and you have to be careful about basically talking about the accomplishments you've done, because those will, in the end, lower your dopamine when you are about to do some other activities or also those activities. Then the second tool is I have for you is that if you don't have, for example, any jobs lined up yet, in terms of if we are talking about you having a job in your own company, or you have a job at a company and you're working for a boss, if you don't have other jobs lined up, so for example, if you're still working just one job, what is really important to do to drive your brain to focus on really meaningful activities is to read ebooks consistently, maybe books, but ebooks are the best case because you can basically immediately start reading them even at your workplace too. But what you have to realize is that this basically forces your brain to focus on the meaningful activities you will need to have, and those also expand your skill sets. Now, this is especially powerful because I'm gonna say one thing is that when you're reading an ebook, it works in a similar way as if you were to do or to start another job, is that you are basically learning on the spot of how things work. It basically is the same system, which works in your brain when you are learning on the job and learning from the ebooks. So there is kind of that switch that whenever you actually are then able to have a second job, you are already lined up to learn quite fast, because if you don't use it, you lose it, and that also applies to our capacities to learn and how fast and how efficiently we can do it as well. And basically, second way this helps you massively, especially, is that when you are learning from ebooks, let's say constantly at your workplace, at your home, whenever you can, that eliminates the time you spend on these useless and shit activities you will have all the rest wanted to do. I mean, I'm gonna say one thing is that even in high-paying jobs, you see people who are scrolling TikTok, Instagrams, their message feeds. So it's actually very, very easy to outwork people in there, because those completely change how you think, and they make you basically think and talk about non-important topics, which still so many people do, and I think it might actually even increase into the next few years still. Now, it's pretty much all good for you. What you will have to realize is that since you are basically working and focusing on the topics you learn from so much, it's going to help you to then figure out faster, if you don't have a job lined up, how to do so. And by expanding your own skill sets, you are then able to perhaps talk about those topics. It's different than talking about your accomplishments, because talking about those skill sets you haven't used yet isn't as much of an accomplishment yet. It's something you can talk about with other people to basically further expand your skill set. But if you are basically focusing on meaningful activities, it makes you have a better perception of yourself as well. It is much better than if you were to scroll TikTok on that, because subconsciously we do know that it's completely useless activity. This is why people feel so shit after using TikTok, also because of the dopamine system, for example. But focus on these meaningful activities such as ebooks that you actually care about. That's the biggest point. That you actually care about is huge. So I'm not talking about fantasy novels, but I'm talking about actually real skill world books that you can read, or ebooks on that end, which will help you to enhance your skills. So basically, you can think about it as that if you do have work, you better be consistently focusing on it. If you don't have it, you better be consistently focusing on how to educate yourself to actually be able to expand your skill set, to be more valuable on that end, and to know how to better, for example, have better sales skills, which are pretty much the backbone. Sales is pretty much the entire life, so we have to figure that out. Pretty much, I think we can also wrap this up. In terms of respect, you just have to figure out that the best ways you can do that is to not just work inside of the company as many hours as you can. That does work, but to also have something on your own, because not many people can do that, and especially your bosses wouldn't have time to do that, to work, let's say, 2 or 3 jobs, to also work on additional business on that end, or to even employ other people, because you will be an outlier if you are even 25, 26 at your own age to other people, which makes you basically more valuable to the people around you, and it also increases your respect by a huge amount. You will be actually surprised how well it works. And the great thing about respect is that it actually works on a curve of an upward curve into long term, into the future. So just watch out for that. So hopefully this video was quite a bit helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can also reach out directly to me in the comments. I always read the comments if you have any questions on that. If you would like to visit our website and check out our products, which one is the Creatine Monohydrate, which we've started to make as of last year, and also the Fitness Advantage ebook, which also talks about the concepts as we've discussed now, but also about the concepts about how to use fitness in your own life and how it helps you in your business too. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. See ya.